If you own a Mac Mini M4, you've probably realized how limited the ports are. And when you start adding drives, displays, and audio gear, it gets messy fast. That's what got us curious about the PULWTOP Mac Mini M4 dock. It's not just another hub, it's also a mount with built-in SSD support. So, we've been using it for a while now, and here's what we think after putting it through some proper daily use. Right from the moment we took it out of the box, this thing looked like it actually belonged to the Mac Mini family. The finish matches the M4's aluminum body pretty closely, and it doesn't feel like an afterthought. The rounded edges and concave arc blend with the Mini's footprint, which keeps it clean and seamless on a desk. Now, one thing we noticed is that it's not too heavy, but it still has enough weight to stay planted. There's an anti-slip ring underneath, and 4 silicone pads that prevent any sliding when you press cables in. It's those small touches that make it feel premium without asking for a premium price. The dock sits directly under the Mac Mini, and what's smart here is that the design keeps a small gap for airflow. So, it doesn't block the Mini's ventilation at all. It also lets you reach the power button without flipping anything over. That's a nice usability detail, and we didn't realize how useful it was until we kept switching between our setups. Let's talk about ports, because that's the real reason you'd look at something like this. On the front, you get 2 USB-A 2.0 ports, an SD card slot, and a micro SD slot. Around the back, there's one more USB-A 2.0, one HDMI port that supports 4K at 60 Hz, a 3.5mm audio jack, and of course, a USB-C host port that connects straight to your Mac Mini. Now, it's worth noting that all 3 USB-A ports are 2.0, which means they're made for peripherals, like a keyboard, mouse, or wireless dongle, not for transferring large files. At first, we thought that might be a limitation, but then it made sense. USB 2.0 helps avoid Wi-Fi interference, which is a common issue with USB 3.0 hubs on the Mini. And in real use, our Wi-Fi stayed perfectly stable. No random drops or slowdowns. So, for everyday tasks, plugging in SD cards, transferring photos, or connecting an audio interface, it works perfectly fine. Just remember, these ports don't deliver charging power. They're strictly for data and accessories. But the biggest highlight here is the built-in SSD slot that supports M.2 NVMe drives. That's what sets this dock apart. It supports drives up to 4 terabytes, which basically turns your Mac Mini into a small desktop server. Installing the SSD was simple. You just remove a few screws with the tiny driver they include, drop in the SSD at an angle, secure it, and add the thermal pad for heat dissipation. The whole thing takes about 3 minutes tops. Once formatted, the SSD mounts instantly. We used a 1 terabyte NVMe, and transfer speeds sat around 2,000 megabytes per second for both read and write. That's not Thunderbolt level, but for USB-C, it's plenty fast for photo and video projects or running virtual machines. And here's the key: it stays cool. Even after long file transfers, the temperature never got too high, thanks to the ventilation design. So, if you often work with external drives or just want to free up internal Mac storage, this feature alone makes the dock worth considering. Once we set it up, it became clear how convenient this dock actually is. We plugged in the Mac Mini on top, connected the single USB-C host cable, and that was it. Everything else, keyboard, mouse receiver, external monitor, and audio gear, stayed permanently connected to the dock. The HDMI port handled our 4K monitor at 60 Hz with no flickering or lag. We used it for color grading and editing, and it kept the signal clean the whole time. The SD slot also came in handy when transferring clips from our Insta360 and mirrorless cameras. And since it sits at the front, it's easy to reach, unlike the ports at the back of the Mac Mini. We also tested file transfers from the SSD against an external Thunderbolt drive. The Mac's internal storage is obviously faster, but for the cost and convenience, this dock performs reliably. The difference only really matters if you move massive files daily. Now, one thing that could have made it better is at least one USB 3.0 port for faster accessories. But given the Wi-Fi stability trade-off, we understand why they went this route. It's a balanced compromise. After using it for about a month, we noticed how natural it feels as part of the setup. The color and finish make it look like it was designed by Apple itself, and it gives the Mini a slightly elevated stance that looks neat on the desk. The little details also hold up well. The screw mounts feel sturdy, the SSD stays in place, and the front ports don't wobble or flex when plugging cables. There's no noticeable coil noise or heat buildup, which can happen with cheaper hubs. We also tried it on a Mac Mini M4 Pro, and it fit perfectly. Power delivery stayed stable, and even with multiple peripherals connected, we didn't face any dropouts. It's one of those accessories that you forget about once it's installed, and that's exactly how a good dock should behave. So let's talk about value. Depending on where you get it, the PULWTOP dock sells between $80 and $100. At first glance, that might sound high for a USB-C hub, but when you factor in the SSD expansion, the price makes more sense. If you only need extra ports, you could grab a simple USB-C hub for around $20. But if you're looking for a compact base that keeps your desk clean, adds storage, and matches the Mac Mini's design, this one checks all the boxes. And the truth is, there aren't many options that do all of this in one piece. You either get storage or ports, not both together at this price. So, for creators or office setups where you want everything centralized, this dock hits a pretty good balance between cost and function. So, after spending enough time with it, here's where we land. The PULWTOP Mac Mini M4 dock is not about pushing the limits of performance, it's about practicality. It gives you more ports, adds up to 4 terabytes of storage, and keeps your setup clean without adding clutter. We like the design, we like the SSD slot, and we appreciate that it doesn't mess with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth like many 3.0 hubs do. Of course, we would have loved at least one faster port, but in real-world use, it doesn't feel like a deal breaker. If you're someone who's running out of ports or tired of dangling drives from the back of your Mac Mini, this dock just simplifies everything. It's neat, affordable, and reliable for daily tasks. So, that was all. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more tech news and reviews.